Still to come here. Round 6 of the 2026 season of Porsche Sixt Carrera Cup Deutschland. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to one of the absolute highlights in the calendar for Porsche Sixt Carrera Cup Deutschland. Welcome to the Norisring. Welcome to the streets of Nuremberg. We returned here last year after a 6-year break, and what an event it was. We've come back to do it all again this year. Air temperature 23.3 degrees, translated as hot and getting hotter. But that is nothing compared to the heat of what you are about to witness out on track as we get ready for qualifying for races 11 and 12 of the season. So race 1 of the weekend will come tomorrow and race 2 of the weekend on Sunday. Cars are out on track at the moment. Right, pay attention everybody. This is going to come at you thick and fast. You can see that the clock is ticking down. You'll see that half the field of cars are out on track at the moment. So I'm going to very quickly run down what is going to occur here. This circuit, which is fairly small, fairly is minute, 2.162 kilometers around with 5 turns, 4 to the left and 1 to the right. There's the point situation. Every point counts. Theo Overhouse leads Keegan Masters by 1 point. Alex Tauscher, who has been the championship leader for so long, after that encounter with Flint Schuring at Norisring, is now 8 points behind. Flint Schuring, man on a mission, closing in just 16 points behind. So this qualifying session is really important around such a tight circuit. It means the circuit being so small, the cars have been split into 2 groups. So in the championship, positions 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and all the other odd numbers have been put into Group A. Group B is made up from those in the championship that occupy positions 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on and so forth. So the groups have been split. This is Group B that you're seeing on the track first. So we're giving the championship leader the potential advantage of a faster track. So the cars in Group B are out on track at the moment. They have already just a little over 5 minutes remaining. The fastest person in this group will start at the front of the row that they are on. The fastest person from both of the groups, between Groups A and Group B, the fastest driver will start on pole position, and the rest of his or her group will line up behind them. And the same with the other group. The fastest of that group will line up on the outside front row, and the rest of that group lining up behind. We will be doing that twice over. This is for race 1 of the weekend, so we'll be doing it again in a bit for race 2. I hope I've explained that. If I haven't, well, just enjoy watching these cars hammering it around this circuit. It may be small, but we are reaching speeds of about 255 kilometers an hour, somewhere around here before the brakes, hitting the brakes into the Grundig turn 1, which is a very slow first gear corner. It's a really tricky track, has caught many drivers out over the years, creates great racing, but qualifying is critical here because overtaking is quite difficult. So this is Group B at the moment. The drivers who occupy positions 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on in the championship at the moment. As you've seen from the points that flashed up on your screen, Theo Overhouse, who will be in Group A, leads the points standings from Keegan Masters, who is in this group. At least he should be, in theory. So Masters, you can see there, he's not out on track at the moment, or maybe he is, just hasn't put in a competitive time at the moment. In free practice, we already had a bit of running earlier on today. The quickest was Flint Schuring with an incredible 49.723. That was about half a second slower than the fastest of the DTN cars that was running here this morning here at the Norisring. Last year's pole position and faster time was set by Hu van Eindhoven. It was a 50.601. Yes, very strange talking about lap times without a 1 at the beginning. It's a 50-second lap, or a 49-second lap, as is the case here. These drivers have only a little over 3 minutes to set a time for race 1 of the weekend. Then they'll be back into the pits, and Group A will then come out on track and they will then compete for their positions. And as I mentioned before, whoever's the quickest out of those two groups, that will determine the row that group will start in. At the moment, Caleb Sumich looking good, a 50.439. Flint Schuring, a 50.538, but Schuring will have a grid drop as a result of the collision with Alex Tauscher in race 2 at Norisring last time out. Flint Schuring will be starting 3 positions further back. Chester Kiefer is another one who's got a grid drop, and that was because of a collision with Marcus Armand last time out. We're also going to keep one eye on Theo Erverhaus, at least we would do if he was out on track, and I believe that Erverhaus was due to be out on track for this session. Maybe he's in the other group. Actually, no, he's in Group A, so he'll be out in the next session. He had a collision this morning with Søren Spreng, a fairly sizable collision that saw Søren Spreng with a lot of damage. Søren Spreng has picked up a grid drop as a result of that penalty, but he will not be out in qualifying anyway because the car is too badly damaged. They're going to get the car together, hopefully for him to race from the back of the pack tomorrow. But Søren Spreng, the Pro-Am Championship leader, his weekend already off to a very bad start after that collision this morning. Right, let's have a look here. That is Caleb Sumich, absolutely monstering in the curbs here. How close to the wall is he getting in the number 14 car? At the moment, Flint Schuring now goes quicker. So you can see Schuring with a green in Sector 1, a purple in Sector 2, which means he's the quickest of anybody. But Caleb Sumich looking and indeed going to the top briefly, then back down to second. But Caleb Sumich appears to be settling into this track very well indeed. For most of these drivers, it's the first time they've ever been around here. Schuring, that is not the case. He was here last year. Indeed, he won here last year. Robert De Haan also won here last year on his way to winning the championship. But at the moment, it's Flint Schuring who goes quickest. Keegan Masters up into second place. 45 seconds remaining on the clock. I told you this session was going to be coming and going very, very quickly. Niels Langeveld has gone the quickest of anybody in Sector 1. So keep eye on 9th place, the number 10 car, because he is a man on a mission. Purple in Sector 1. Is Langeveld going to move his way up the order? This track often throws up surprises. It is the great leveler around the streets of Nuremberg. So at the moment, they're all aiming for Flint Schuring's 50.068. That is the time that they're all aiming for. We've got 15 seconds remaining on the clock. I'm keeping one eye on Niels Langeveld. He jumps up to P3, so that will be a 3rd row start if things remain as they are. Flint Schuring at the moment with that quickest time. The clock strikes 0 now, and so any drivers on a lap, that lap will count. Keep an eye on Sam Yongyan. Briefly, he was quickest in Sector 1, but that's been eclipsed by Keegan Masters, so we're not done yet. Drivers on their big push lap at the moment. They've got the tyres in the window. The track is arguably at its quickest point of the entire day. You can see that Schuring has now gone quickest in Sector 2. A purple in Sector 2 for Flint Schuring. Sumich back up to back up to P2 in the timing. So out to receive the checkered flag they come. This is incredibly competitive, incredibly close. Yongyan up to row 2 of the grid. Keegan Masters to row 3. Caleb Sumich on row 4. Then Niels Langeveld, Dirk Schouten. And that was it. What a quick qualifying session that was. So, as those cars come into the pits, the next group, which is Group A, will be getting ready to come out pretty well straight away. So 50.068. That is the time that Group A will be aiming for. So 50.068. If nobody gets above 50.068, then Flint Schuring will start on pole position. If somebody does get quicker than that time, Flint Schuring will be starting on the outside front row. On the second row, whether it's the inside or the outside, we don't know yet, it will be Sam Yongyan. And on the third row, Keegan Masters, Caleb Sumich. Now, I say Flint Schuring starting on the front row. Of course, he has that grid drop hanging over him. So it's not 3 places down on that line. It's 3 places in the total grid. So if things remain as they are now, Flint Schuring will drop down to 4th place on the grid. Complicated? You'll get used to it. At the moment, that is the rest of the drivers and scores scrolling through. It comes thick and fast. Now, I was told that the next group would be coming out almost immediately. Right, here they come now. So this is Group A. So this is the championship leader, which is Theo Overhaus, who leads by 1 point. Alex Tauscher, Matheus Ferreira, and all the other odd-numbered drivers. They will now come out onto the track, and we will do it all again. So the clock reset to 8 minutes. We're going to be doing this 3 times over now, because we're going to do it all again for race 2 for Sunday. So at the moment to breathe, take a deep breath, cars out on track. That's a risky place to put a camera around here. How close to the wall can you get without losing the camera? I'm trying to see who that is. That looks like Mikael Esmond's car. Probably hideously wrong, but we'll find out at some point. Out now, just building temperature in the tyres, getting them into the window. The clock already ticking down for this group, so we've already had 1 of the 8 minutes. It means there are 7 minutes, good maths there, remaining. Right, well, a name to tell you about starting in this group. A guest this weekend sitting in. He's not like registered as a guest driver. He's a substitute driver, which means he scores points for himself, but especially for the team. None other than the outgoing champion of Porsche Sixt Carrera Cup Deutschland, Robert de Haan. Welcome back, Robert. Great to have you back on the grid in the #1 car for Proton competition, and he is out on track. There's Joe Warhurst finding out where all the bumps are on this circuit. So Robert de Haan coming here, not in the championship hunt, but very much looking to score points for his team and would dearly love to take a trophy home with him. Of course, he had that epic battle with Marcus Armand at the Red Bull Ring last weekend in Porsche Mobile 1 Super Cup and ended up taking the win after Marcus Armand got a puncture. Flint Schering came home in 2nd place at that event last weekend. So that's a great championship to be keeping an eye on. But here, this weekend, Robert de Haan for Proton competition in the #1 car. So that is going to throw a very large cat amongst the pigeons. So 5.5 minutes remaining. Remember the time that we're aiming for, 50.068. That was the time set by Flint Schering in Group B, which rather confusingly went first. At the moment, Alex Tauscher, well, he's purple in Sector 1, but he's not anywhere near the times that we're going to be expecting in about 3 or 4 minutes' time when the clock gets down towards 0. Of course, this track, in the glorious hot sunshine here in Nuremberg, is potentially going to get quicker and quicker as more rubber is laid down, as more heat is into the tarmac, as the tyres get into the window. So the cars arguably will get faster and faster, so we may well see the fastest time of all coming towards the end of this session. There is no room for error here because the clock ticks down and it is relentless. We are getting towards the halfway point of this session for this group. Coming up to 4.5 minutes remaining. De Haan is quickest at the moment with a 50.742, so that is about 7/10 slower than Flint Schering, but there's still more to come from Robert de Haan. He is not here to make up the numbers. He is here because he wants to take a trophy home with him, and he will be giving it absolutely everything to try and score as many points as possible for his team. So riding on board with him at the moment, you can see how narrow it is around these streets. It might be narrow, it might be short, but on the main pit straight, out of turn 4, the Dutzendijk curve, we're looking here, and then towards turn 5, which is butter kink. The drivers take that flat out, past the pits they will come, in towards the Grundig turn 1, where they will reach about 253, 255 kilometers an hour in 6th gear. So it is a terrifyingly quick track. The bumps have been known to catch drivers out in years gone by. Ask Mikael Esmond about that one from last year, as we now look towards the Scholar S, which is turn 2, a brief right, then a left, taken firstly in 2nd gear, and then up through the gearbox up to 5th gear towards turn 4, the Dutzendijk turn. 3 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. 50.443 is the time to beat at the moment. Right, Matheus Ferreira, the first to really pull the pin. Quickest in turn in Sector 1 and 18.558 in Sector 1. So Ferreira looking to improve. Right to the top goes Chester Kiefer, 50.279. Still 200ths of a second off the fastest time set by Flint Schuring. Remember, Chester Kiefer will be taking a grid penalty, 3-place grid drop when the grid is drawn up for the race tomorrow. De Haan in that second place at the moment, but purple in Sector 1. So De Haan turning the wick up as well. Matheus Ferreira's lap netted him a third place, so that will be third row of the grid. Kiefer, the man at the moment. The Schumacher CLRT cars are the cars to beat around here at the moment. Joe Warhurst up to the second row. Good job from him, a 50.302. But who can catch the Schumacher CLRT cars? Excuse me, first into the 49s, Robert De Haan, a 49.931. You can tell that caught me by surprise, can't you? 49.931. So we now have confirmation that the group that we saw earlier will be on the outside of the grid. This is now the fight for pole position because we have beaten the time of 50.068 set by Flint Schuring. De Haan, that was an epic lap. First into the 49s. Is anybody else going to get close to that? Gus Burton is giving it a go. Remember, he finished on the podium in Porsche Mobile 1 Super Cup in Monaco. He likes the street circuits, he does. He's got the quickest of anybody in Sector 1. A personal best in Sector 2. Can he get it into the 49? So one eye on the 57 car of Gus Burton. Chester Kiefer down to second. Gustav Bergstrom, good job for him, up to third place. Right, out comes Gus Burton to P3. So didn't really gain too much in the final sector, but still that is a third row start. That would be fifth on the grid for Gus Burton if things remain as they are. Wouter Borkamps in the number 25 car, currently loitering on row 11. This is surely going to be an improvement for him. There's Gianluca Tucciaroglu in the 91 car as well. He is on the 9th row. We're into the final 45 seconds of this qualifying session for race 1 of the weekend. We are fighting for the inside row, for the pole position row. De Haan is the quickest at 49.931. Gus Burton, purple again in Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2, only a fraction slower than De Haan was, and he goes quick as Gus Burton onto the front row. This would be for pole position if things remain as they are. We've now got 3 drivers in the 49s because Gustav Bergstrom, what a sterling job from him as well. 49.981, but 49.893 is now the time that they're all aiming for Gus Burton. Could this be a first ever pole position for the British driver? The checkered flag comes out. I'm looking to see if anybody's improving. I don't think anybody is. So Gus Burton looking a favourite for pole position at the moment. Robert De Haan in second. Gustav Bergstrom in third. Chester Kiefer in fourth place. Everyone else comes out across the line. It's going to be a first ever pole position for Gus Burton. He'll be happy about that. The driver who finished on the podium in Monaco. I think he likes the street circuits. There's Theo Overhaus, who had that accident this morning on the 7th row. It's going to feel like a long day tomorrow for him in the race because he's going to have to fight his way forwards. But look at that. Gus Burton, 4th racing by Atlas Ward, takes pole position, his first ever pole position in Porsche Sixt Carrera Cup Deutschland. And that was a time of 49.893. What a stonking lap that was. So these cars will then come back into the pits. We know that will be the pole position time because Flint Schuring's 50.068 was eclipsed. Row 1 will be Gus Burton. 3rd on the grid will be Robert De Haan. 5th on the grid, Gustav Bergstrom, by far his best ever quali, and the leading rookie driver there. Chester Kiefer will be on row 4. Matheus Ferreira, Joe Warhurst on row 6. There's the rest of them scrolling through. There's confirmation that Sören Spreng did not take part in this session as a result of the damage that he incurred having collided with Theo Overhaus this morning. What a great qualifying session that was. Good bit is we're going to get to do it all again now. So Group B, here we go. I told you there is no time to breathe in this qualifying session. I think we should do this every week, don't you? No hanging around here. Get on with it. Get out there. Get those tyres in the window. So here we go. Group B out again. So the quickest last time out was Flint Schuring. So now we have the grid for Saturday decided. In theory, we're now looking at the group grid qualifying for Sunday. The clock has already ticked down 30 seconds, so less than 7.5 minutes remaining. So time to weave, time to get the tyres back in the window, time to get the car into that position, ready for the push lap. And of course, on a circuit this size, even when you've only got half the grid, finding space for your push lap is another skill. You really don't have time to be tootling around trying to find that space out on the track, so to do your push lap. So this is a really intense period of time for these drivers. The next 7 minutes, absolute full focus, no distractions. Everybody now thinking about the grid for Sunday. On board with Montego Masson, the number 66 car. Has had a good season so far, has taken several podiums in the rookies, yet to take a win. He's had a couple of second places in the rookie race, and this could well be the circuit where he shines because, hey, his teammate, Gus Burton, in the Fork Racing by Atlas Ward car, has just put it on pole position for tomorrow's race. Can Monty Masson do something similar here in this session? You can see how tight that turn one, the Grundig turn, is. Taken in first gear and then back on the accelerator as they head out towards this right, then left. That is the Scholar S, the second gear sequence of corners. Then it is full tilt out towards the Zeppelinstrasse as they head into Dutzendijk, which is turn 4. Giving it the large into turn 4, another 180-degree hairpin, and then it'll be the long pit straight. Amazingly, on a track this short, is one of the longest straights that we have on the calendar. Nearly 1 kilometre long from the exit of Dutzendijk in towards Grundig turn 1. And that is the view along most of it, looking from the perspective of turn 1. Right, 5.5 minutes remaining. Who can do what? Dirk's shooting quickest at the moment, but he's going to need to shave about 3 seconds off the time. Easy for me to say. You can see from the weaving, cars are yet to be in the window in terms of tyre temperature, so the drivers working hard, weaving, generating the heat. Need to just build the heat gradually, like there's time to do anything gradually in a session like this. Once those tyres are in the window, once you've built that temperature, it's time for push, push, push on that big hot lap, the big push lap. With these tyres, maybe 2 or 3 laps they're going to get out of them at their absolute peak. That's when every last 100th, every last 1,000th will count. So at the moment, they're still in the build process, still getting those tyres ready for the big push. So in that last session, remember, Gus Burton was the quickest driver in the previous one. I was looking at that, 0.8 of a second covering the entire field. And in the first qualifying session that we had, it was 1.6 seconds covering the entire field. But it was about half a second covering the top 11. So that is how close it is here, how intense it is. Right, 4 minutes remaining on the clock. Who is going to be the first to pull the pin? You can see from your graphic the purple sectors 1 and sector 2 for Flint Schuring. So he now giving the big push. So sector 1 goes all the way to the exit of turn 1 just before turn 2. Sector 2 really short, taking in the Scholar S just towards turn 4, the Dutzendijk turn, and then the final sector, the remainder of the lap. Flint Schuring 49.944. So he's into the 49s, the first of this group into the 49s. Flint Schuring currently the fastest of all. Dirk Schuiten second. And assuming there are no more penalties, Flint Schuring is currently trying to qualify for an actual grid position. on Sunday's race with no grid drops. Purple in Sector 2 as well. So Flint Schuring, the Schumacher CLRT cars, once again proving to be the cars to beat out on track. Schuring comes out 49.692 was his last lap. That is an epic lap from Flint Schuring. 49.692, so that is quicker than Gus Burton's pole position time for race 1. Niels Langeveld showing the potential that he had in the first qualifying session up to the second row. We'll need to find out the fastest time from the next group before we know whether this is an inside or an outside row. This could be the pole position row or it could be the outside row. We'll only know when the next session has run, but at the moment, Flint Schuring, 49.692, less than 2.5 minutes remaining of this, the third of 4 group sessions here in qualifying at the Norisring. Niels Langeveld in second. Keegan Masters, the man who has a reputation of coming forwards in the race. That might be quite difficult around this tricky circuit. So Masters will want to try and push himself forward. But what a lap from Sebastian Freimuth up to row 3. So he was briefly up to row 3 because now Keegan Masters has indeed improved exactly as he needed to do. So he is on to the second row. Nobody is up with Flint Schuring yet. There is 0.15 seconds, so 1.5 tenths between first and second at the moment. Is anybody improving? 1 minute and 3/4. Nobody is setting purples. There's a few personal bests coming up, but nobody is getting near Flint Schuring's time. But Sebastian Freimuth, once again, purple in Sector 2. This is looking like it could be a best ever qualifying for Sebastian Freimuth. That is eclipsed by Daniel Rose. He's gone purple in Sector 2 now as well. So the number 88 car, if all goes well in the final sector, looks to leap up to a higher row at the moment on row 10, but it's not going to be for long as he hangs it all together on this lap. 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining of this session. Out across the line come more of the cars. We've got another purple there. That was, and it wasn't a great last sector for Daniel Rose, so he does stay on row 10 because he did not improve in Sector 3. He had a very poor Sector 3. At the moment, Keegan Masters improving still. He's got purple in Sector 1. So the 49.692 of Flint Schuring, is that in danger? Purple for Keegan Masters at 15.458 in Sector 2. So he's about 300ths off the time of Flint Schuring in Sector 2. And he is still trying to improve on that second row position. But he's also had a poor Sector 3 as well. So Keegan Masters remains on the second row. Flint Schuring trying to improve, but it looks like he's taken everything out of the tyres that he has to. So his Sector 1, nothing especially spectacular. So I don't think Flint Schuring is going to improve. Right, the clock strikes 0. 49.692. Flint Schuring looking pretty safe at the moment. Keegan Masters in second. Great quality from Caleb Sumich up to P3. That will be a third row start. Checkered flag is out, so we're waiting for everybody now to come across the line. I don't see anybody improving dramatically in the closing stages of this session. So checkered flag is out. 49.692 is the time that they're going to want to beat when Group A come back out on track. So Flint Schuring quickest in both sessions, but remember he's got that grid drop in race 1 of the weekend, so will not start on the front row. But now the question is, will it be pole or will it be an outside front row? Because we're going to wait once again for the next group to come out, the last of the 4 groups to come out. So it will be Group A once again, who will come out for their last qualifying run of the session. This is really intense stuff. Let's have a look here. All subject to confirmation, of course, but Flint Schuring, the quickest in qualifying to Group B. Keegan Masters on the second row. Third row, Sam Yongyan. Fourth row, Caleb Sumich. Fifth row, Niels Langeveld. Then Max Muschleckner. Sebastian Freimuth having a really good quality from him. Monty Masson on the 8th row. And here's the rest. Daniel Rose But for that third sector, looked like he was going to leap up the order, but in the end, it was a ninth row. Dirk Schutten, a long way back for him. Jonas Greif, Alexandra Vataver in row 12, then Tim Reiter. Haven't even mentioned Kai Pfister yet. Great to have Kai back as a guest driver in the Pro-Ams and for Proton competition. So 2 drivers for Proton who are here for the first time this season. Right, here we go. So the cars in the background will be filing back into the paddock. Here we go. Once again, Group A, cars being pushed into the fast lane. The clock is already ticking. This is to determine the final part of qualifying. The time they're all aiming for, 49.692, the time set by Flint Schuring. Can it be a double pole position for Gus Burton? Or will it be somebody else? Will Theo Overhaus be able to improve? Clearly, all is not quite well with that car after the crash in practice this morning, but Theo Overhaus will be wanting to get on with it and get a good grid position. Also there, Alex Tauscher will be looking to try and improve. Tauscher was on row 11 in the previous session, so the driver who has led the championship for much of the season will be starting the first race of the weekend from row 11. He'll be 21st on the grid, and that is going to be quite painful for Alex. He'll be looking to try and improve on that for the second race on the Sunday, and this is his opportunity. In the same colours that he was in last time we saw him at the Lausitz Ring. The car that was being run by Jack Young, I believe, in Super Cup. So here we come again. The clock is ticking, and now it's that time to build the temperature back up in the tyres, get them into the window before the big push. The last of the 4 mini qualifying sessions that we've had here at Norisring this afternoon. Qualifying for Sunday's race. So Joe Warhurst out there again, weaving, trying to generate that heat in the tyres. So in the last session, he did jump quite a long way up in the early stages, but eventually it was down on row 6. So Joe will start in 11th for the first race, ahead of Alex Tauscher, who will have it all to do. But now the lessons learned by the team. They'll be looking at data, they'll be looking to improve, seeing what they can do. What can Robert Dehaan do? So Gus Burton had the 49.893. That has no effect at all on this, but that is a benchmark time from this group. The one they're all focused on is the quickest time we've seen by anybody here, 49.692. Which is getting on for the same kind of times that the DTM were doing in free practice here this morning. That's how quick these cars here, that's how much the track is ramping up. So at the moment, the drivers are in the 51s, 52s, but we've still got a little under 5 minutes to build the temperature in the brakes and in the tyres to get ready. On board with Robert Dehaan once again for Proton competition. So 50.187, that is the first representative time. 50.187, but I get the feeling there's more to come. Joe Warhurst has gone quickest of anybody in Sector 1, an 18.574 in Sector 1. He's also gone the quickest of anybody in Sector 2. Sector 1 now the quickest is Robert Dehaan, but Warhurst in a good position to jump up from his 13th row. Kiefer now the quickest of anybody in Sector 1. Gus Burton the quickest of anybody in Sector 1. That purple in Sector 1 is changing hands every few laps. Warhurst up to row 2. A great job, 50.403, but maybe more still to come. Dehaan, purple in Sector 2, but we've got an eye on Burton. He was purple in Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2 at the moment. Burton on row 9 for race 2 of the weekend. He's about to elevate himself further up the field, and he does just that, and is up to row 3, so not quite as quick as the earlier session. We've got nobody into the 49s yet, but we're still to a degree, building temperature in the tyres. On board with Robert De Haan on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see what the circuit looks like from his perspective. There's Nick Ho just coming through as well. Less than 3.5 minutes remaining of this session. Robert De Haan comes flashing through your picture. The number 17 car of Gustav Bergstrom, very impressive. Joe Warhurst goes quickest at 50.010, but we're not into the 49s yet, so still more to come. Remember, from that previous session, 49.692 is the one they're aiming for. If somebody can get below that, Chester Kiefer goes quickest, 49.917. If somebody can get quicker than 49.692, it will be pole position. Mathieu Ferreira now goes quickest at 49.848. The times are coming down. 2 3/4 minutes remaining of this session. Sensational stuff from Porsche Sixt Carrera Cup Deutschland. Kiefer, quickest of anybody in Sector 1, continuing to improve. 2.5 minutes remaining. What can anybody do about that quickest time? Mathieu Ferreira, 49.848. That is the target time at the moment. Kiefer, purple in Sector 1 and Sector 2. This could well be a pole position lap for Chester Kiefer. What can he do in the final session? De Haan goes quickest, 49.719 to Chester Kiefer. Kiefer relieves De Haan of that quickest time in just a few seconds. So Kiefer goes quickest, still not quite up with his teammate Flint Schuring from the previous group. De Haan on the second row. Joe Warhurst, has he got anything left? He's on row 5. Wouter Borderkamps up to row 4 with a 49.879. 1 3/4 minutes. It could all change. Gus Burton, purple in Sector 1. Gus is coming through once again. Can he do it in Sector 2 as well? So we've got one eye on Gus Burton in the number 57 car. He does a personal best in Sector 2, but it's about a 10th off the quickest time of all in Sector 2. So Gus Burton is going to elevate himself up if everything holds together from row 7, but is it going to be enough for a pole position? Out across the line he comes up to row 3 for Gus Burton. Robert De Haan with a 49.696. He's 4 thousandths of a second off Flint Schuring's time from the previous session. At the moment, it will be Schuring on pole position. Robert De Haan alongside him, but anything could happen in the next 60 seconds and counting, because there are still drivers out on track, pushing hard, trying to improve. Nobody's setting any purple sectors. Yes, they are. Chester Kiefer, purple in Sector 2, trying to improve on his 49.719. Can Kiefer get it up and make it a front row lockout for Schumacher CLRT? Robert De Haan is going to try and prevent that if he can. Kiefer comes out across the line. His final sector was not an improvement. So with less than 30 seconds remaining on the clock, it's Robert De Haan who is quickest, but it's not as fast as Flint Schuring's fastest time in the previous group. So 49.696. Just 4 thousandths of a second off Flint Schuring's time. The clock is about to strike 0, so it's now or never for Robert De Haan. But his Sector 1 has not been spectacular. He is about 2/10 off. This is not going to be enough for a pole to improve for Robert De Haan. He's already up on that front row, but not enough for pole position. It's going to be an outside front row as things stand at the moment. De Haan crosses the line. 49.696. The checkered flag is out. Boy, that took a bit of keeping hold of. Chester Kiefer, row 2. Mathieu Ferreira, row 3. Gus Burton on row 4. Joe Warhurst, row 5. Alex Tauscher, another difficult session for him on row 6, ahead of Wouter Borderkamps. Dylan Yip, Louis Perot, Gustav Bergstrom and Theo Erverhaus all the way down on row 11, ahead of Nick Ho, Gianluca Tucciaroglu and Mikael Esman. And of course, Søren Spreng, a non-starter in this session. Boy, that was an intense 40 minutes or so. Told you it would be exciting, didn't I? So, by my calculations, and I would say this is all subject to confirmation, for race 2 on Sunday, it will be Flint Schuring on pole position with his group behind him, and Robert De Haan alongside him on the front row with his group behind him. It's all subject to confirmation and is also on the proviso that nobody gets a grid drop out of Saturday's race. But as things stand at the moment, this will be your outside row. Group A, Robert De Haan, 49.696, 4,000ths of a second off the quickest time set by Flint Schuring. And then Chester Kiefer, Mathieu Verheeren, Gus Burton, Joe Warhurst, Alex Tauscher, Wouter Boerkamps, and Dylan Yip. Then Louis Perrault, Gustav Bergstrom, Theo Overhaus, Nick Ho, Gianluca Tucciaroglu, and Mikael Esman. And now we take a deep breath. What a thrilling qualifying session that was. That took an awful lot of keeping on top of. So much going on, so frantic. And that is just a taster of what we're going to get this weekend, because the Norisring always throws up some big surprises, always provides us with spectacular racing. Last year, it was Flint Schuring and Robert De Haan who took the wins. For the first race tomorrow, it'll be Gus Burton on pole position with Flint Schuring alongside Robert De Haan and Sam Yongyan. What a qualifying from him on row 2, the leading rookie driver. Then Gustav Bergstrom, another spectacular qualifying from him. Keegan Masters will be alongside him. Then it'll be Chester Kiefer and Caleb Sumich, an all-rookie row 4. Row 5, Mathieu Verheeren and Niels Langeveld starting 10th on the grid for car 10. Then Joe Warhurst and Dirk Schouten on row 6 of the grid. On row 7, Theo Overhaus with a lot of work to do. Daniel Roos, well, we've seen how quick he can be around here, haven't we? Then Wouter Boerkamps and Sebastian Freimuth on row 8. I think they'll have mixed feelings about quali. Dylan Yip and Max Muschlechner will be on row 9, another all-rookie row there. Remember, most of these drivers have never raced here before. Gianluca Tucciaroglu, Montego Masson on row 10. Then Alex Tauscher all the way back on row 11 with Jonas Greif for company. Then Nick Ho and Tim Reiter on row 12. And on row 13, Louis Perrault and Kai Pfister. So that will be the starting grid. Oh, we got another lot yet, haven't we? Mikael Esman, Alexandra Vatova on row 14. Yeah, there's another one still to come. And then Søren Spreng, who did not take part in quali due to damage incurred in free practice. Now that will be the grid for Saturday's race. That is set to be something spectacular. Gus Burton will start on that pole position. His best finish so far has been a 4th place at Spa earlier on this season. That was his best ever finish. He will be looking to emulate what he did at Monaco and indeed do better. Right, this is Sunday's grid. So Flint Schuring will start on pole position with Robert De Haan alongside him. On row 2, it will be Keegan Masters and Chester Kiefer. Chester, the pole sitter for the rookies. Then row 3 on Sunday will be Sam Yongyan and Mathieu Verheeren. They'll be fighting from there, won't they? Caleb Sumich and Gus Burton on row 4 of the grid. Both of them had a bit of practice around Monaco earlier this year. Niels Langeveld and Joe Warhurst will line up on row 5. On row 6, Max Muschlechner and Alex Tauscher. And then on row 7, Sebastian Freimuth and Wouter Boerkamps. On row 8 of the grid, this is Sunday, remember, it's Monty Masson with Dylan Yip for company. And then on row 9 of the grid, Daniel Roos and Louis Perrault. They will occupy those positions. On row 10, Dirk Schouten and Gustav Bergstrom. And on row 11, Jonas Greif and Theo Overhaus. Oh boy, he's going to be ruining that collision in practice this morning. Alexandra Vatova and Nick Ho will be making progress from row 12. On row 13, it's Tim Reiter and Gianluca Tucciaroglu. And on row 14, it's Kai Pfister and Mikael Esman. And then, is there anybody after that? Yes, Søren Spreng, of course, who we already know did not take part in qualifying. 2 spectacular races lined up, ready to come as we look at the circuit from the Dunsandine Lake. It's goodbye from the Norisring. We'll see you tomorrow.
Ganz großes Kino.
There's a lot more still to come here.